Hi, this is Brendan Davis from Bedrock Games and the Bedrock blog, and I'm here with Dion and Jim Pinto for another episode of Wuxia Weekend. Tonight we're going to be talking about Ong Bak, a 2003 film starring Tony Jaa, and people might notice we don't have Kenny or Adam here with us tonight, but Jim has kindly stepped in to fill both of their shoes. So, hopefully we'll have a good discussion about Ong Bak. But before we do, I just want to mention we have a Patreon page. There's a link in the description. We use it so that we can pay for movie rentals and purchasing DVDs and things like that. And also we have to help Adam with his terrible gambling habit. So it's very important that people follow the link and pay what they can and get the different reward tiers. So Ong Bak is a classic movie. I remember seeing this when it first came out. It's a really simple story. Basically, Tony Jaa plays Ting, who lives in a northeastern Thai village where one of the Buddha heads is stolen, and he has to go and get it back and bring it to the village. And so it's a fairly simple plot, but it's actually a really great martial arts movie, but also the story is fairly compelling. So, but Dion, this was your first time watching it, so I want to get your opinion first, and then we'll get Jim's, and then we'll get my opinion.
I enjoyed the movie. I only was able to see it once this week. It was my first time viewing it. But I enjoyed the simple storyline. But I really enjoyed the characters that were portrayed. I thought they were very human and relatable. And I thought it was a really good story with really good actors in it. The only one I knew was Tony Jaa. But the others, I thought, did a pretty good job. And the fight scenes were good, and I don't really have a background or any kind of working real knowledge of Muay Thai. So this is a good... I think this is the second movie I've seen.
Of a Muay Thai movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, because we had Duel of Fists, but that was a Hong Kong film. Actually, this is your third, Dion, because we also saw the movie with Angela Mao, where she was involved in Muay Thai as well.
Oh, yeah, that's right, right. So
the tournament.
This is the third one.
Yep. But those were both Chinese movies where it was clear that the fight choreographers were coming from a much different point of view. And this is definitely
this was true to story, so.
So Jim, what's your reaction to the movie?
I love it. I think it's Tony Jaa's only good movie. I think every element of the movie holds up. It has character development. It's a very simple plot, but you get emotionally invested very quickly because you can see the acting and the way that the story is sold by the elders at the beginning of the story, beginning of the movie. You get the sense of how important this is. And then once you get to Bangkok and you see how little that kind of rural traditional life means to everybody in the city, it's a very good fish out of water story in that regard. Yeah, I would agree. And it's also good because that's true. That's like a really true aspect of Thailand where you have that rural and city divide. The entire Mekong Peninsula, that all of Indochina is like that, really.
Yeah, and that's where like the red shirt and the yellow shirt thing kind of it tends to fall on those lines.
Yeah.
So it's really significant there. And yeah, I love this movie. When I first saw it, it was mainly for the fighting because I was doing Muay Thai at the time, and I was working at a Thai restaurant, and I was lucky enough to see it with a Thai person, and so I had a lot of the movie explained to me as I was watching it. And it's not, we'll get into it when we get into the fight scenes, but it's not Muay Thai as you see in the ring. This is more traditional Muay Thai, sort of pre-Western boxing rules being incorporated into it. But it works really well on the screen, and Tony Jaa is just amazing physically. He has the athletics, and he has the sort of martial talent that's required, and it reminds me of the first time that I saw Police Story. It's that kind, like that level of physical performance.
I was going to bring up Police Story, actually. I think that's a fantastic analogy.
Well, it's just funny. I know Dion does not like Police Story, so I could see that she's laughing. But yeah, you see what I mean, though, right? Like there is that. It has a similar type of thing where this is clearly meant. And when I first saw it, I knew this. It was clearly meant to showcase Tony Jaa's talents. And usually that wouldn't be a good thing for a movie because everything else would suffer as a result of that. But it somehow all still works, and it really holds up too. I was surprised because I haven't seen it in about 5 years, and I was expecting that it was gonna not age as well as it did.
I don't really know Dion's opinion about things, but I can tell you I understand why she doesn't like Police Story without even knowing her, and I can tell you why this movie is successful as a result. Because Police Story was Jackie Chan's I've got to make this work or I'm going to go hungry film, right? And he created a new format for making Hong Kong cinema. So it is rough. It is a punk rock film. Tony Jaa has that blueprint done for him because Jackie Chan has done 100 movies that follow the Police Story blueprint. They just get perfected and get better and better and better and better and better. So he's copying the punk rock feel of we're going to really get hurt making this thing, but we're hungry and we got to make this successful. But he can copy the blueprint of the best Jackie Chan films, not just Police Story.
Yep. No, and Dion, does that improve your impression of Police Story at all, or is it still no?
No, because I don't read backgrounds about movies and things like that before I watch them, and I get all that kind of information later to find out why everybody's so into it, and especially if I'm not. But for me, the reason why I didn't like Police Story was it. For some reason, it didn't hold my attention. I typically don't like movies with guns. I don't like movies that are, too far set like in present day. Yep. I'm more of a historical fiction kind of person. And it just, I don't know, for some reason it didn't gel for me. I didn't feel connected to any of the characters really in that movie. And like I told you, I tried to watch it 3 times.
I remember.
Really just, I didn't have much to say about that one. But this one, at first I was like, what am I getting myself into? But when, like Jim said at the beginning, the elders really sell the story on how important this Buddha statue is, and you want them to get it back. And you see these clips intermingled in between when they go back to show you what's going on in the village, and they're starving and they're going to die, and these people in the city just don't care about anything, including the man who ran so far away from the village, George, to be his own person. So it's just like, I don't know, this story was definitely more compelling to me than Police Story was.
Well, and Police Story is also kind of like a series of just scenes that are built around Jackie Chan's talent, and sometimes it's very rough between them, like they don't necessarily string together all that smoothly. Like the phone scene is sort of just in the middle, and it doesn't really tie to the rest of the movie quite as well. But I think that in this movie, this time around, I was noticing just how smooth a lot of those transitions were. Like all those scenes are meant to showcase Tony Jaa, but they flow pretty naturally. Like there's a logic to why one thing is happening and then the next thing is happening. So it kind of holds it together better. But now I'm curious, has anybody seen any of the sequels to Ong Bak?
Yeah.
You do not sound impressed.
They are not good. I said this is Tony Jaa's only good movie. I
would agree with your assessment of the Ong Bak sequels. They're generally they're not. It feels like they're trying to do something that they want to do that maybe isn't good for the series.
I will own that there's some good fight scenes in the Protector 2, Ong Bak 2. Mm-hmm. I will agree that there's some good fight scenes, but I don't think a whole movie can hold up that way. I can't watch a film that way.
Yeah, I liked the Protector movies. I liked the sequels to Ong Bak. I didn't understand why it was interesting at first when they were set in the past, but what I realized was it looked to me like Tony Jaa was more interested in emulating a lot of Hong Kong movie tropes in that movie. Like you had like the drunken style thing going on, and so it felt like the historical thing was just an excuse to bring some of those tropes in, if that makes sense. And it just didn't seem really connected to the original Ong Bak. But I guess it would be tricky because George is dead. So there's I don't know where they would go with the next beat of the story. But I always thought of Tom Yong-goong Protector. I always thought of that as a cast sequel to Ong Bak.
Sure, it is, and the fights in it are really good. But it is sloppier than Ong Bak.
I would agree.
That boat chase comes out of nowhere. One minute he's in the house fighting, doing that big giant jump across the living room, and the next minute he's in a boat chase outside. I don't even know what the hell's going on.
Now, we were gonna talk about this towards the end, but I think since we're bringing up the subject, we can talk about it now. Which is, when this came out, I was really expecting Tony Jaa to become like the next Jackie Chan. Like we were gonna have this person or like Bruce Lee or somebody like that, like another person who was just gonna completely revolutionize how we thought about martial arts movies and make a ton of really great martial arts films. And he's made movies that I've enjoyed. It just didn't. It just didn't become this thing that I thought it was going to become. And you really see that when you go back and you watch Ong Bak, I think.
I think it's just a testament to how important story is. Once again, right? If Jackie Chan hadn't kept saying, "I need to improve, I need to get better, I need to make bigger, better movies," he would have been stuck. I don't care what you think of Drunken Master. Mm-hmm. That's a kind of a bad movie. The original Drunken Master. It's sloppy. It's not filmed well. The sound quality is bad. And if he had rested on his laurels and said, "That's the kind of Hong Kong cinema I want to do," he would never have become what he is today.
But wouldn't you at least say? But he still made movies that didn't always have a good story, right? But like he would still be able to carry the film.
But the production value would increase, right? The stunts would at least be interesting. You would at least know something wacky's coming because Jackie's not going to rest on that helicopter scene.
There was an escalation. There was an escalation of quality in some respect.
And when you go to Police Story 2, which is just abysmal, there's this sort of letdown of what it went wrong. And that's what happens with Ong Bak 2 and 3. That's what happens with Protector 2, is people lose the heart of what they're doing and why they want to do it. And Tony, without, I guess, having an understanding of how cinema works, he didn't protect his own career the way he should have. The success of Ong Bak should have taught him, okay, but I can't rest on my laurels. The next movie's got to be better. It doesn't have to be bigger, but it has to be better.
No, and I think I imagine that's what the historical aspect was part of, but it just didn't work out. I don't know. Yeah, but with the Police Story too, that's interesting because that happened because that was largely a response to the criticisms of the film. It's even like in the dialogue where critics were sort of, mentioning how there was just this astronomical level of economic damage done by the protagonist in the first movie, and so that actually gets into the dialogue of the second film.
Sure.
And there was a lack of story in the first movie, and so there was more story in the second movie, but it just made it worse somehow. So what about the fight scenes in this film? What did everybody think of the fighting and the fighting style that we saw on display?
I like the fighting scenes. I thought they were really cool. Like I said, this is my first real exposure to this style of martial art. So, I thought it was really amazing. But what I could have done without was showing the impact of a hit from sometimes they showed it 4 times from different angles. I would have preferred maybe just a second angle. I didn't need the third and the fourth angle.
That's my only big criticism of the movie, actually, is those repeated point of view shots of the different impacts or just different cool things that he's doing. I thought those felt a little bit artificial, and I didn't think they were necessary. I saw that he did it. I didn't need to see it 3 times from different angles,
Right.
But yeah, I think the fight scenes of this I think are really good, and it's obviously kind of meant to sort of present Muay Thai as the ultimate fighting style, even though it's really more traditional, sort of Hollywood version of traditional Muay Thai. But just the when this movie came out, I had just transitioned from Taekwondo to Muay Thai, and one of the reasons why I did that is because I was working at a Thai restaurant, and the Thai people, they were very interested that I was doing Taekwondo, but whenever they asked me to demonstrate, they'd always mock me for not having the level of power that you find in Muay Thai, and I feel like this really captures the power level behind the Muay Thai kick or a Muay Thai elbow or a Muay Thai strike. And so it's just a really good visual depiction of it. Jim, what was your feeling about the fight choreography?
I loved it. I absolutely like I said, I have no complaints about this film really. If they do, they're minor. Like all these kinds of movies, it could probably do with one less fight, but at the same time, they made every fight fresh. It was a different. I wasn't watching the same fight over and over again, which was great. There was a Jackie Chan movie where he did that. It was the same fight over and over again. I just thought, why am I seeing this again? But no, I thought, again, Tony did everything right with this first film. He was following the right blueprint. And a lot of that probably has to go to the director and producers, right? Tony can't get all the credit.
Yeah, there's a fight choreographer too. So
yeah. But the chase scene on the street was fantastic. I mean, it was a little silly, right? Because he was basically doing a left-right scroller, jumping through things that just happened to be exactly perpendicular or parallel to what he was doing.
This movie has a very Thai sense of humor, I think.
Yeah.
There's a scene during that chase scene where George grabs a cleaver and the guy's,
that's my favorite scene.
And then he grabs the giant cleaver and they start backing off, and then this old lady comes by selling knives.
Yeah.
And it was silly, but it makes you laugh.
It was probably the funniest scene in the movie.
Yeah. So there's a lot of scenes like that, and I think that again you even see it in some of the fights, the humor that makes its way into it. But I think it works because that's just I don't know if any of you have seen Thai television, but I watch a lot of Thai TV with my wife, and the humor, like, you have to get very accustomed to hearing really cartoonish sound effects during daytime Thai TV because it's done for humorous effect. So if somebody goes over and smacks a person in the back of the head, there's a boing sound. Do you know what I mean? There's like a lot of so there's a little level of silliness that's, I think, accepted. But yeah, I know, Jim, you want to talk about that first knee kick that we see in the Fight Club scene.
Yeah, it's such an interesting pacing because I think it's 30 minutes into the movie, right? It's really deep into the film before we see somebody get punched or kicked.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think there are like some minor scuffles, but nothing.
There's some minor stuff here, but we haven't seen Tony hurt anybody yet.
Yeah.
And it takes a long point. And so did you ever see the movie Open Range?
No, I haven't.
Okay, I can't use that as an example. There's something about letting the movie breathe and building the tension that much so two things are happening, right? The movie's inhaling and exhaling at the same time. And so when that kick finally happens and that guy is knocked on his ass in just one boot to the chest, one knee to the chest rather, it's explosive. It's more powerful than it would have been had we seen a bunch of stuff before. And the director knew what he was doing. We're going to show this guy get knocked out in one punch so that we're establishing in this moment, it's the wrestling philosophy. In order for me to become a better wrestler, you have to see me beat a wrestler better than me.
Yeah.
And I think movies fail to do that a lot. And in this instance, we're establishing, as soon as he does that kick, we're establishing just what a badass Tony Jaa is.
Well, and that was really surprising too, because you're expecting a much longer fight scene when that starts.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just boom, he's on the ground, and it's very distinctly Muay Thai or Muay Boran. It's that knee to the chest. Like, you don't see that in most fighting styles. So it kind of, if you've never seen it before, which a lot of people hadn't when this came out, it's jarring. You're sort of surprised by it, because up until this point, most of the martial arts had been more Chinese or Japanese or something like that. Right. And so this is sort of, as MMA is gaining a lot of popularity and Muay Thai is attached to MMA, so I think that it was I don't know. I'm sure. I mean, there are definitely movies before this, but like, you know, the first time I ever saw Muay Thai was what was the Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, Kickboxer?
Kickboxer.
Yes.
Yeah. That was the first time I saw it, and you know, in that one, like Jean-Claude Van Damme is doing karate half the time, right? Like it's not even proper Muay Thai. So you know, this feels like it was one of the very early, real authentic Muay Thai films. And again, we did see some of those other ones, Dion, too. The Duel of Fists movie and the Tournament film as well. But again, even those didn't look like Muay Thai to me. So what about the Bruce Lee guy which is an example of another humorous scene? You know, the guy that had the wig on, and he was sort of shuffling back and forth, and he was pretty ridiculous looking. I can tell you, when I watched this with my wife back when it first came out, that scene lit her up. She really liked that scene, and the reason why was because she saw it as sort of an attack on kung fu, and
Right.
you know, it was sort of like, okay, kung fu is ridiculous and Muay Thai is the real martial art. So that was sort of I think that's what that scene was sort of meant to illustrate, but I don't know what your feelings about it was. Dion, why don't you go first?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I thought it was, yeah, he was kind of ridiculous, though, the Bruce Lee kind of guy, ridiculously looking. And I was kind of like hoping we weren't going to get I'm going to have to go through 12 people to get to the big boss kind of game thing here. But yeah, I'm glad he took him out. I like that scene, though. I was glad he took him out.
Jim?
Did we lose sound? I heard a big.
No, I think Dion, did you just move your mic or something? Was that?
Oh, I hit the cord.
Oh yeah.
Okay, yeah, it sounded like we cut out. Sorry, that's why I was quiet. Yeah, I think the joke was pretty obvious. If you know anything about Thai people, you know how proud they are and what they think of their neighbors. And so to mock Bruce Lee or any Chinese, what is it, Wing Chun? Mm-hmm. Isn't that his style?
Well, his style became Jeet Kune Do.
Yeah.
But Wing Chun is what he started in, yeah.
Yeah. So for them to mock that it's pretty expected, but also it was really well done. I like the manner in which it was done. It was clearly tongue in cheek. If the Chinese are offended by this, too bad. You know, it's obviously a joke. So there's something, and the way they do the humor, right? I like one of the things Jackie Chan said about movies in Asia is that Asians don't go to movies all that often because they don't have a lot of money. So when they want to go through a roller coaster of emotions. They want to feel everything. Mm. And I think sliding in humor in these kinds of films is allowed. If you did that kind of stuff in American A-list movies, it would be called cornball. But when you see it in Asia, it's totally allowed and understandable because of the context in which those films are made. And if you can't laugh at that moment, even though the story itself is really deep and meaningful, then you probably shouldn't be watching Asian cinema. And I just love, like, the shuffling back and forth is the movement in that really gets me. The feet going back, because up until that I saw that scene, I would have thought of somebody shuffling their feet back and forth kind of being like a badass thing. Do you know what I mean? And it was just it just deflated the whole concept. So it was effective. But also the guy that was doing it, I don't know who he was, but he was really into that Bruce Lee guy role. What did people think of the Mad Dog character, the guy that was using furniture and ended up using like electric wires at one point, and I guess he was just allowed to use whatever resources were available to him when he was fighting.
I thought he was out of pocket. I don't know. I thought he was just crazy. It was like
great phrase.
I'm sorry. I teach kindergarten, 12th grade, and that's all I hear is Miss Hawkins, you're out of pocket. And I'm like, what did I do? I don't even know. But
That's fantastic.
But yeah, that's like, he was like, it was going crazy. It was like, that was completely unnecessary. But I guess it was necessary for him because he was getting so beat up. But I thought it was,
I mean,
I don't know.
The tables came out pretty quickly, I think. I don't know how beat up he was when he decided to just ram him with a table and then a refrigerator and so many other things. I don't know. Go ahead.
I was just going to say the electrical wires went way too far.
Yeah. Well, those weren't even practical. Like, he was just hurting himself when he did that, right?
That was the American, though, right? That
guy?
Yeah, I'm assuming so, because he's Mad Dog, but
yeah,
but he didn't look American to me. I don't know.
He did to me.
Did
he kind of looked like, not like Hulk Hogan, kind of like a beefier kind of Hulk Hogan type of person. I don't know. That was my impression.
I don't know. But he came across as a real a-hole, I thought. That
yes,
was
definitely.
He's got a Eurotrash look to him. Yeah, he was American.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Something European looking, but I don't know. I mean, but Mad Dog seems like I feel like they were trying to make an American character with that. But wasn't there another guy named Pearl Harbor? Remember, there's a guy named Pearl Harbor.
How do you know all their names?
There's Pearl Harbor. There was Ali, and there was another guy too. Oh man, I can't remember.
I believe there was Pearl Harbor. I remember that flashing across the
that's
screen.
The best.
I was like, what is that related to?
It's the best fighting name in the world. Like Pearl, because it just implies like a level of surprise destruction. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I don't know. I think there were a couple of other fighters in that named in that sequence. So I don't know. So moving into the overall story, just general feelings about it, or any observations before we get to the characters?
I thought it was a good story. It was simple. You just go try and country bumpkin, going into city to get back what his village needs to survive. And along the way, he has to find help from one of the villagers who's kind of like lost his way, and his father wants him to come back. I thought it was a great story. I liked the girl being the sidekick. I thought she was really cool. And I thought that they told it really, really well. It was well put together. Everything just worked so well in this movie. It was the right characters and the right tempo. I know I'm going completely off topic, but
okay.
I enjoyed the story a lot, and how much the Buddha meant to them, and the need for them to get it back. So I thought it was a great story.
Jim?
Because it's actually a character-driven story. I don't know if people realize that or not. It's not plot-driven. I mean, the plot carries me from scene to scene, but they did a really good job of making both George and Tony Jaa. What's Tony Jaa's character's name?
Ting.
They do a good job of making them three-dimensional characters, and I guess we're already making the segue into character now.
That's fine. We can naturally move into that, especially if you're making the case that it's character-driven.
I'm doing such a natural case of it that I'm saying that I'm doing it and breaking the fourth wall. I'm really good at this podcast thing. I should record more.
Good, you're doing an excellent job.
For people that know that I do 2 other podcasts, that was a funny joke. For people that don't know that, now I'm over-explaining it. I'm gilding the lily. I'm out of pocket.
So, and the girl's name was Moy Lake, which I think just means little fighter.
Okay. So one of the cornerstones of good characterization in film is being a three-dimensional character, right? Knowing who the character is one. Knowing what the character wants is 2, and knowing why the character can't get it is 3. And oftentimes writers don't really do the third one. They just make 2-dimensional characters. Anytime you see any low-budget kung fu movie, they're either 1 or 2-dimensional characters.
Wait a second. Are those... this is probably a very stupid question, but I'm a lot less educated about literature and film. When people say 3-dimensional characters, are those the actual 3 criteria.
Those are the actual 3 dimensions.
Okay. I did not know that. I just assumed it meant a fleshed out character that had a lot of details to it. I didn't know.
You should read my books, Brendan, because it's in every single one I read.
I have one of your books right here, and I'm going to run it. And I have read your books, but I do skim over sections sometimes. So do you just I'll ask it in the next podcast because I don't want to disrupt the flow of conversation. So go on.
Sure, that's okay. Dion did ask you what book it is that you're talking about.
Oh, I have a book called Holy Diver, Dion. That Jim wrote. Does this book describe those things? Can I just
No, that's just pamphlet.
Okay.
You need the primer, which I think you can download for free.
But you told me I didn't need the primer. Remember, you said
you need the primer for what I'm talking about. For the 3 dimensions.
Okay.
So they do a really good job of making Ting and George. I hope I'm getting his name right. They both are 3-dimensional characters, right? And Tony Jaa's 3rd dimension is pretty obvious. It's very difficult for him to do what it is that he wants to do, and then it's the cost of another character for him to actually get what he wants, which is interesting because that character dying finally gets what he wants, which he didn't realize he wanted all along. So that's really complicated writing for a martial arts film.
Yeah.
If you just look at those characters. And I don't know that you need the female character so much. What's her name again?
You do, and I'll explain why.
Okay. I could be wrong.
Well, I mean, I'll tell you why I think she's important.
Okay. And I'm happy to be wrong about that. I think the majority of the focus is on the tension between all these villains who are trying to stop these 2 characters from getting what they want.
So with the Muay character, so we're spoiling the movie for people. George dies at the end. He dies pretty dramatically.
We already did that, actually.
Yeah, but did we name him? I don't know if we named him.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So George dies, and when he dies, it's actually kind of a moving scene, and I think, there's a lot of reasons for it. You mentioned many of them, which is that, they establish a lot of things about him from the very beginning of the film. You know who his dad is. The whole movie is kind of building to him, to that scene where you see his parents watching the festival and he isn't there. But I feel like the moment where Muay runs up to him when I don't know if he died because of the thing fell on him or because of the hammering to the back, but whatever caused it, when she runs up to him and she's pleading with him and saying that she's going to take him to the hospital, the relationship that they had seems like it's the thing that really adds the power to that scene. Do you know what I mean? Like him and her being this duo, and then her realizing, and the duo being kind of like the funny part of the movie where they're pulling all these little hijinks and like they're making money at card games. They're basically con artists, right? And so they're adding a level of humor to the film, and he's the funny guy in the movie. And so when the funny guy and the funny duo sort of have this really serious end, it just makes the scene more moving to me. Anybody?
No, I would agree to that. And I think because George took care of her, or at least tried to take care of her, and we know that she doesn't have anyone else, that kind of makes that his demise even more sad, because you don't know what she's going to do when without him, because he did protect her the whole time. And even though they were doing some hijinks, there kind of was a reason why they were pulling all these hijinks and being con artists to get her through school, because she seemed like she was a really bright kid who needed more guidance, but obviously she didn't have anybody to really guide her, and she didn't have the money to do what she wanted to do, go to school. So, it leaves one character in limbo. We know Tony Jaa's character Ting's going to go back to the his village with the Buddha head and be a hero, and the festival's going to go on and the village will survive. George is redeemed, and he, his parents can now be proud of what he's done. But Pui Moi, you don't know what's going to happen to her. So to me, that makes the ending even sadder and more potent for me.
And also in that scene, she's calling him Piot in that scene in the audio. And prior, I don't believe she was calling him Piot. I think she was just calling him Yacht. And P is it's sort of if somebody's older than you and you're showing them respect,
Yeah.
you would put P before their name. So I feel like, so when I noticed that, which I only noticed it this time, I never noticed it before, it added like another level to that scene of, oh, she's kind of acknowledging him as like her senior, as like maybe some kind of father or like brotherly figure. So yeah, so I don't know, that scene had more effect on me this time around than it normally does. So
I think
go ahead.
Dion made a really good point that opened up a thought process for me, in that she is the bridge between traditional and modern culture in the film.
Mm-hmm.
She's the emotional connection that brings the closure to George and Ting. Sorry, I almost said Ping. To Ting, to the two of them. And I think maybe, I don't want to sound sexist, but we're talking about a traditional Asian culture here. Maybe you need a female character to do that, because a male character can't bring the same level of empathy and sensitivity that you need for that bridge.
No, I think that's fair. I think that's fair.
I think that's an excellent point.
Yeah, I definitely, I think that, and also, I mean, we see that on display throughout the movie. This definitely, I mean, there's the scene where, what was his name? Don, the criminal guy that is a real jerk. You know, what he does to his girlfriend, right? Like that's a, you know, very, this is a world where, you know, women don't have the same options as men, and where men are, you know, more traditionally masculine and things like that. So
right.
you see that throughout the film, and so it wouldn't surprise me if what you're saying is correct.
I watch a lot of Asian cinema from all over Asia, India and Korea especially, and a lot of that is just in the film, and it's not even talked about. It is just an understood premise of society that men are quote unquote more important, and so you learn to just understand it as a contextual part of the films, and so when a movie is saying something loudly like that, it's almost dangerous to show a female character sort of resisting the status quo.
Yep. Though one thing I will say about Thai culture is there's I think more balance than say Korea or Japan in that respect.
Sure.
Sure. But there still is that division. What about the villain? What do people think of the villain in this movie? The guy with the voice machine and
with the trach.
Yeah. My grandfather had one of those little boxes.
Did he?
Yeah.
Was he a smoker?
Oh yeah. He was a smoker and a drinker. He used to drink a tall glass of vodka every day and smoke cigarettes every day, and he ended up getting the tracheotomy thing. Dion, you can go first.
Yeah, I've been trying.
I was thinking, what did I really think of him? I mean, I thought he was a jerk, and the whole, I don't know. It was just interesting to see a villain that was imposing, but not physically imposing. Being in the wheelchair, having the trach, and everything, but there was something about his presence that was just off-putting. And a lot of times you need that physicality to be imposing, but he didn't need it. I wonder who that actor is and what other movies he's been in, because he had great presence on the screen.
I'll see if I can track that down. Jim, what did you think of him?
I thought, I loved him. I thought he represented perfectly for me, at least my understanding of how old people earn respect in Southeast Asia without even having to earn it. They just have it as a result of age. Mm-hmm. And he didn't seem like a guy that was making anything or creating anything or even producing wealth for anybody but himself, and yet everybody listened to him. So there were some deep layers to him that I was seeing. I'm not necessarily saying that they were there, but that I was seeing because of my understanding of the culture.
Yeah, I think he. I agree that he was physically not very, like, he was just wasting away in that chair, but he had this presence, and I think what he was. I don't know. I saw him as just sort of like a criminal overlord of some kind, but it was very unclear to me what exactly he was doing, aside from somehow getting involved.
Stealing Buddha heads?
Yeah, stealing Buddha heads. But that one in particular was of very little use to him, it seemed. But there was a scene in there where he delivered a line that said something to the effect of, like, there is no God, I am God, right? He said something like that.
Yes.
And I know my wife did explain it to me. I don't know what the actual Thai said in that scene. But what's interesting to me about that line is that's basically what mafia people say when you're inducted into the family. That's what the Don of the family would say to the inductee is, there is no God, I'm your God now. And so I don't know if they were intentionally drawing on that, or if that's just like a universal, all criminals do this to sort of pluck you out of the mores of your society. But I thought that was an interesting line. And I don't know, I find him I like the wheelchair and the trach, and the scene where he puts the cigarette in his throat is he's a pretty I don't know, he just seems to have such contempt for everything that Thai society holds of value. It's just it seems like he's there just to sort of be like, this, like, if you value anything that is valued by Thai people, then this man is going to, he sort of embodies the opposite of that. But
in that regard, he's a little cartoonish.
No, he is. I think he's very cartoonish. But I'm okay with cartoonish villains in these kinds of movies. Yeah. I don't think like you were saying, the other characters are all three-dimensional. I don't think he was particularly three-dimensional. I just think he was like a... Dion, remember the movie with Michelle Yeoh that we saw? The first Girls with Guns movie. And the name is escaping me. The one with Cynthia Rothrock in it. You know which one I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know.
So, you don't know what I'm talking about, Jim, do you?
I would not watch anything with Cynthia Rothrock.
Okay.
So no.
This is one that is worth watching.
Does she hurt people in it?
Well, she does.
Does
but
she
so
hurt
does
the stuntmen in it?
Well, she hurts the stuntmen, but so does Michelle Yeoh. She's
just notorious for that.
It's besides the point. But there's a villain in that. His defining feature is that he just laughs all the time. And he laughs so much, the actor starts using the laugh in, like, different ways to kind of communicate to the audience. It becomes this thing that's just fascinating the more you watch the movie. But he's really cartoonish, do you know what I mean? Because he's just laughing all the time. And so I file this villain into the same category as that villain. I like him, but he's definitely kind of at a cartoonish level of, oh, you like Buddha heads? I hate Buddha heads, and I don't believe in Buddha. He's that kind of a character.
Sure.
So any other characters leap out at people? We've talked about all the three main characters, right? We've discussed all of them, or have we?
Well, what about the?
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Jim.
No.
I was going to say, what about the main villain's right-hand man, the crazy Asian that was stabbing himself with the steroids to fight?
Well, okay. So I have a big question about that guy. What was he injecting into himself? Because I don't think that was steroids. I think that was some other... That was something that, like an amphetamine or something that was, like, jacking him up and, like, bringing him to Scarface levels of invulnerability. But I have no idea what it was.
I don't think it matters, right? We just know it's a MacGuffin, right?
It matters to me. I really want to know what it is when I'm watching this movie. Like, it's been gnawing at me ever since I first saw the film. But yeah, no, you're right. I mean, the viewer doesn't need that information. It's not important for the viewing of the film.
Are you the guy that asked, was this bomb programmed with a hexadecimal code?
No, I'm not. I'm definitely not that guy. But I am the guy that if somebody injects themselves with something and it does something spectacular, I want to know what it is. Yeah,
it's a tool that he had that Tony did not. That's all you need to know.
But was it because we find out that fight was fixed anyways, right? We have this whole... Okay, that's a fascinating fight scene, right? We're going to talk about the guy, Dion, so don't worry. But that scene, the whole thing is it's this traditional thing that you see in a lot of fight movies where the guy pulls some kind of cheat, whether it's steroids or amphetamines, to make himself invulnerable in the ring against the hero. But he does it when the hero's agreed to throw the match already. Yet we see a whole fight that looks like Tony Jaa is getting beat up because this guy's immune to him. Do you know what I mean? So... And then in like the next scene, we learn, oh no, he was just throwing the fight to get the head back. That's I don't know. That's like a really weird. I don't know. That just struck me as very strange when I thought about it. That
I don't want to speak over Dion, but I have some thoughts here. Dion, do you want to go?
I didn't find it weird at all. I just thought that he was getting his butt kicked, and then when he it was revealed that he was throwing the fight, I was highly disappointed in his character. I didn't think that Ting would stoop that low to do that. And so I was very disappointed in him and George at that moment.
He did have a look of shame on his face when they were talking about that. But, Jim, what were you going to say?
There's two different ways to look at it. One is Don is the bad guy's name, by the way, the guy that injects himself.
No, Don is the Don is the other guy. Don's the drug dealer guy.
No, he has a different name. I just looked it up.
Are you sure? Because I could have sworn they called him Don.
Yeah, I thought Don was the first street level thug that they met.
Oh, okay. Well, IMDb's got it wrong then, but that's fine. I'm happy to be wrong here. Oh no, you're right. I'm sorry. I'm looking at the wrong line on IMDb. You're right. So what the heck is his name then? I shouldn't close it, should I? When we're having these conversations.
It's Saming Sibtid. I'm not pronouncing it correct at all, but I believe he's supposed to be Burmese.
Yes, I remember that.
Is that his character name or that's his?
That's the character. The character name is Saming.
Okay. Saming, yeah, there it is. Okay.
And the actor is Chattapong Patana Angkul, I think.
Short side note, I really loved Rambo 4, and when you're looking at the credits, it was filmed in Thailand because those names are 17 consonants long, syllables long. It was fantastic. So Saming, there's two different things going on in that fight with Saming. Either he's afraid he's going to lose anyway, which is why he injects himself, and that sells Tony Jaa as a more powerful fighter, or what's going on is that they are just showing you the lengths of depravity these people will go to disconnect themselves from, I don't know, the soul or the spirit or their humanity, right? I'm going to win this fight anyway, but I still need this drug because I'm that much of a bastard.
Yeah, and it's at a certain point in the film we see him inject himself with 6 needles, right?
Yeah,
at the final scene. But yeah, that guy, I thought that guy was great. He had what you need for that kind of role, which is just the look. He had the look and the attitude. Mm-hmm. You don't really need the guy to do much more than that, except for fight. But
right.
But yeah, I thought he was perfect. He's kind of had like a Bolo Young type thing going on that was really effective, and also he was unlikable. Like, remember, Dion, when we saw A Moment of Romance and we were talking about that trumpet, how the actor was just instantly you hated him. This guy had that kind of a face too. I just didn't like him.
As soon as you saw him standing behind the guy in the wheelchair in the very first Fight Club scene, you knew you didn't like him.
Yeah. I was, so I like the character. I thought he performed that role very well, and I thought it was interesting that he was meant to be Burmese because they're like, the Thai-Burmese rivalry. So there's kind of like a little bit of a nationalistic streak underneath the movie.
Mm-hmm.
But But yeah, so I don't know. Were there any other characters that we neglected to talk about?
That's everybody as far as I know.
Okay.
The phrase you were looking for earlier is Backpfeifengeist, which is a face in need of a punch. That's a German phrase. So when you see that character on the screen, you know he's going to be the villain, and you know he needs a punch.
Can you repeat that again?
Backpfeifengeist. It's hard to pronounce. It's one big long word.
And the English is a face that needs to be punched?
Yeah, a face in need of a punch.
Okay. Oh, a face in need of a punch. Okay. Yeah, this guy definitely had it. Google Trumpet in A Moment of Romance to look at. I think he's the best version of that I've ever seen. But yeah, that I love that they have a word for that.
Well, the Germans, yeah, of course, they have a word for it.
Yeah, they always seem to have a word for everything. But yeah, so I guess moving on to any moments in the movie that people want to talk about. I know we said we were going to talk about George's death scene, but we kind of already discussed it, unless folks have something to add to it.
I think that whole final fight, all you want is for these two jerks, Saming and the boss. You just want them to finally get it because they've been on top all movie. And the work you have to go through as an audience member to finally get that resolution is a bit exhausting. I think that's what makes that final fight so good, because even when they've won, they haven't won.
That is one of the most painful final fights on a number of levels, because the scene where they have the saw blade and it goes right into his forearms. Yeah, that is hard to watch. That's like one of the hardest scenes, because all I can think of is the blades going into the bone, and he's just getting beat up terribly, and then George gets his arm broken in a really horrible way, and then Ting gets revenge for him by snapping the guy's leg. It's a really brutal fight scene. And then when they actually get the head at the end, the head comes crashing down after George has been smashed with that mallet 4 times, and George dies in kind of a protracted death scene. So yeah, I think you are exhausted. I also think you don't feel completely fulfilled by the end, because you know this character who's kind of like the light bulb in the room is just, he's the one who dies. If it had been Muay who died, or even if it had been Ting, I feel like it would have had less of a sting than if it was George. Because I just feel like anytime you kill off the funny character, it's, again, like in that, and I don't know why I can't remember the name of the movie, but the same movie with the guy that laughs all the time, with Michelle Yeoh and Cynthia Rothrock, they kill off the funny character. They kill off the Choi Hark character, right?
Yes, I believe so.
So it's kind of, I don't know. I think that's another reason why it was, so exhausting by the end. But yeah, I think that scene is really well done. When I first saw it, I didn't realize how well done the whole movie was, and it's only on going back to it and watching it, many times that I really started to notice just what a good movie it is. So I don't know, Dion, did you have anything to say on the death scene or on the final fight?
Karma. That's all I could think when the Buddha's head fell down on him was karma.
That was karma.
I was thinking karma is a bitch, but that works. I was so happy that that's the way that the villain in the wheelchair died. I mean, it just was befitting of him.
Do you think that's why George died too?
I think George was going to die because of the baseball bats. I don't think you could get hit that many times and survive, especially by a deranged lunatic.
Because I'm just thinking, there's a like in Buddhism, right? And this is a Buddhist film. It's not like Christianity where you can just be redeemed, right? You have to sin is sin, and you sort of have to pay the cost for the sin in this life or in the next life. And so I feel like even though George has redeemed himself by the end of the movie, him dying is sort of the karmic restitution that he has to pay for the life that he was leading up until that. That it's not as it's not just simply a matter of, well, I did this good thing and now I can, and now I'm redeemed. So it's a little bit more. I don't know what the word is, but it's a little bit more of a rough road to redemption, and I kind of like that about the movie.
I'm going to say there's another layer to it.
Okay, go ahead.
Do you understand the concept of dharma in addition to karma? Dharma is living within your whatever your role is.
Yep.
Right.
Dharma is, and that's how karma affects you in the afterlife. He lived so long outside his dharma. This was the only way he could come back as getting another chance to do it right. He was never going to do it right in this lifetime. Does that make sense?
No, that makes
been bad
total
for
sense.
So long, so he has to die now, so that he doesn't come back as, say, a bug in the next life. Right. This is his chance, and so there's. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So he had to have this difficult death in order to have a better chance of being reincarnated as something better than the lowliest thing on earth.
Yeah, right. And I don't think that that's true of the villain, right? The villain just dies through circumstance and stupidity and greed. He's not coming back as anything good. But George is sacrificing himself for something bigger than himself in that death. And so I think that's his way of saying, I'm ready to come back as another thing, whether he's saying it unconsciously or not. And maybe I'm probably looking at it way too deeply, but
no, because that's
there's something rich going on in this story. I think it would be a mistreatment to not at least say something.
I think what you're saying is true, and I can't remember if this was if we mentioned this during the show yet, but it came up prior to the show. So if I'm repeating myself, I apologize. But the scene when he acknowledges that he's Humlai from what, the village of Pradu. He's speaking in a different, according to my wife when I saw it with her, he's speaking in the rural dialect when he says that. And up until that point, he's speaking in more of a Bangkok dialect and like a city person. And so, that shift, I feel like that ties to what you're saying about, going outside of his dharma for so long. It's not until like the last 20 minutes of the movie that he reconnects to his role and to his past and becomes Humlai again. So I think it's right. I think that's a good reading of it. So yeah, any other thoughts before we head out?
No, we just have to do our ratings now.
Oh yeah, that's right. Ratings. Sorry. Okay, so Jim, this is new for you. We have a 5-star rating basically. So you can do, is it 5 or 4, Dion?
It's 5, and there's no halfsies.
Yeah, no halfsies. So
all right.
So we'll start with Dion. We'll go to Jim, then we'll go to me. You just give it a rating, and then whether you would recommend it and how strongly or how much you would push people away from the movie. So Dion, why don't you go first?
I'm going to give it a strong 3. I enjoyed the movie. It's probably not a movie I'll go back to and watch over and over again, like my 4s and 5s. But I've enjoyed the movie. I agree with everything that Jim said. These characters are 3-dimensional. I became attached to them. The story itself is simple, but it's a great story. I liked how the fighting was awesome, except for the one little glitch I talked about. But I think it was a good movie. I think people should go and watch it. And if you don't have much experience with Thailand, it's a good way to introduce yourself to it. I thought it was a great film.
Jim?
I would definitely. We're just rating the entire thing overall, right? We're
just between 1 and 5.
Yeah, it's a solid 4. Absolutely. I've seen it, I think, about a dozen times. It's certainly a go-to. And like I said, I watch a lot of Asian films. And you said it was violent. I think Malaysians and Indonesians are even more violent in their movies. But I think everybody's always constantly trying to outdo one another.
What was the raid? Was that Indonesian?
Yeah, Raid was Indonesian. Raid 2. Raid 2 was so brutal. I mean, if you have any emotion going in, it's spent when it's all over. And I think Koreans do this really well too. They do a lot of psychological torment, and so these movies, this area of the world is making movies that are really getting us invested. So when you see something like Ong Bak, and then they do sequels to it, or they do other movies in that vein, and they don't live up to the prize, so to speak, or the bar that is being set, it's an even bigger disappointment. So it's another reason why I say this is only a movie by Tony Jaa I like.
And I would give it. And did you have anything else to add to that, or was that?
No, that was it. That was it.
Yeah, so I would give it a 5. Partly because I did Muay Thai, and this was such an impactful movie on me. Also because personally, it's a film I remember when I was first dating my wife, and it just kind of there's a lot of personal reasons why I would give it a 5. But it's a great movie, and I think it's a wonderful depiction of Muay Boran and Muay Thai and also just of of a different kind of martial arts stunt performance. So and like we said, the story is really good. The characters are really strong. I think that it holds up over time. A lot of films that I watched in 2003, when I watch them now, they do not hold up the way this one does. So I think that it's a solid film, and I'd recommend people check it out. The version that I watched for this review was the one that's on Prime. I just did the rental of the one on Prime, but I have it on DVD, and there are different versions of it out there. So just be aware of that. That when you're buying it, that or when you're renting it, or when you're streaming it, that there are different versions. But I would recommend it. And so next week we're going to be continuing our international month. Dion, are we doing Lady Snowblood next week, or are we doing?
No, hold on. Let me check.
Okay.
I don't want to get it wrong.
I'm really looking forward to Lady Snowblood. I know we have a Korean movie in there as well.
Yeah, The Man from Nowhere. I can't wait for you to see that one.
Oh my God, that movie is so good.
Isn't it?
Oh my God! Can I please be on that episode?
You can be on that episode, Jim.
Oh my God!
I watched it 3 times in one week. That's how much I loved it.
Jim, did you see the movie The Villainous by any chance?
No.
Okay. I'll talk about it after. So I'm sorry, Dion. What did you say we're doing next week?
Hold on, I haven't gotten there yet. My computer's running a little slow.
That's okay.
We're doing. Wait, hold on.
It should be either Lady Snowblood or The Man from Nowhere, I think.
No, it's not. It's The Raid Redemption.
We're doing The Raid?
Yeah, next week.
I didn't even know we were doing that one this month. Okay. You're positive about
You
that.
picked that one.
I picked I don't know. I didn't pick that one, did I?
Yes.
I have no memory of picking The Raid.
The only one I picked was The Man from Nowhere. That was my only choice.
I thought I picked Mrs. K.
We did, but we couldn't find it.
Oh, okay. All right. So we're doing The Raid, or Raid Redemption, right? We're doing Raid Redemption.
Is that the one you want to do?
No, it is. It's just that now that I'm thinking about it, it is along the lines of what Jim was saying. It's a very exhausting movie to watch. But no, we will do Raid Redemption. So we'll be back on next week, and until then, we will talk to you later.